Imagine a man who's just been peaceful his whole life. He's a chill guy. He's calm, he's kind, he's harmless. Then suddenly a war comes. Maybe not a war, but he needs to fight. He needs to survive, right? Survive. Not just be the skinny guy who lives in an apartment all day eating soy milk or whatever, but like you need to survive and thrive. What do you think happens? Probably crippled. Not because he's weak, but because he's never trained for it. He's never been prepared for it. Because he's fragile. Now imagine a warrior. They do jiu-jitsu or boxing or some sort of martial art, right? They wrestle, they work out. Hell, they do all four of them, right? Or even kickboxing or whatever. Or maybe they know how to shoot a gun, or they know how to use a knife, right? They've trained their body, and they've probably also trained their mind, because a lot of those martial arts actually train your mind to be more peaceful. So they choose to spend their days in the garden. They choose to spend their days at peace. That's discipline. That's what it means to be a good man. Howdy, my name is Nolan T. Painter, an aspiring young man with aspirations greater than anyone will ever understand. And in today's video, I want to talk about the infamous, instead of being a gardener at war, be a warrior in a garden. Now, this is pretty simple. So a warrior in a garden is a man who possesses power, but uses it wisely. The whole Spider-Man mantra, with great power comes great responsibility. It's simple. You're strong, you can control, you are very powerful, but you're patient, you're kind, you're wise, right? You can easily see this example in a rich kid who just gets given all his money. He's given a lot of power, but he didn't earn it, so he's not wise. Versus a martial arts fighter, and I don't mean one of those thug guys who just look out for fights. I mean the person who you'd have no expectation that he actually knows how to fight, and then when push comes to shove, he beats the crap out of you, right? So those guys, right, where a gardener in a war is like the rich kid, right, who is out of his experience. He's pushed out where he shouldn't be. They're neglected. They neglected their discipline, and now they're suffering from their inaction, the consequences of choosing the wrong path. Now, this doesn't mean you can't have an affection for flowers. In fact, I love flowers. I love making beautiful bouquets for the people I love. But at the end of the day, as a man, I need to know how to fight. I need to be powerful. I need to have this thirst. And this doesn't mean just fighting. This doesn't mean just being like some samurai. You need to have this discipline, this thought process in your mind, this craving in your mind, this ambition that causes you to just pull out and grasp at whatever you can at life. That ambition allows you to have this thirst and desire to become the warrior. Like, you want to do this, you want to have power, you have this I'm not even going to try and bother that word, I'll just butcher it, but you have this like incomparable thirst for power. The thing is, though, you can do that, but that'll lead to some problems. So the balance is, the key thing that'll make you a good man is you can do that, but you need to be patient with it. You need to be disciplined with it, right? The point of being powerful isn't to show it off. It's to use it responsibly when the time comes, right? It's a tool, right? The same way you would use an army to defend your base, not to parade around the city. So a garden would symbolize the peace, your purpose, your family, your beauty. And the warrior would symbolize like the preparation, the discipline that I was talking about. Like, you're protecting them. It's your masculinity and it's your responsibility. Because a masculine man is this warrior. He's this wise ultimate man who's got this, this massive thirst for this pursuit in life. But he's sitting in a garden with his people he loves, leading them and just tending to his flowers. And you'll see gardens in a lot of famous masculine sayings. Like, instead of chasing butterflies, being women, you build your garden and butterflies will come to you. So being a man is about being this warrior gardener who is this all-powerful warrior and then tending to his flowers, because that's what a man is. And people say that and they're quick to assume, okay, well, how can a man, be so feminine, be a gardener? Well, the reality is he's not being feminine, he's being tender. And yes, tender is usually a feminine trait, but a masculine man can be tender. In fact, good men are tender, because of what a good man is he's someone who is all-powerful. He is very demeaning, he is very authoritative, but he puts all that on a pause to lead it in a meaningful way in truth, not what he desires, but what is necessary for the health of his people and the people he cares about. So what this means is, it relates to all the other videos I've talked about where a man must lead in truth. You must lead what is necessary. You must be sturdy. You must be dependable. A gardener isn't dependable to protect his family, but a warrior is, right? And a warrior can also come back and tend the flowers. Now, he might not be as good as the gardener, but overall, in the grand scheme of life, where you need to survive and you need to be this rigid man who is appealing and trustworthy and most importantly safe, then the warrior is much more desirable over the gardener, especially with women, because women have this innate desire for safety. Obviously, they want to be safe. And I think I'd rather be safe next to a warrior than a gardener, especially if the warrior is in a garden and the gardener is in a war. So if you want your peace, you got to prepare for war. If you want your love, you got to be ready to protect it. Because no man who wants things is a good man if he doesn't want to also protect them. That's why your dad is so protective and so courageous with your family, because he loves you so much that he's willing to do the sacrifice that is necessary to protect you, because love is sacrifice. So again, we got to realize a couple things. Like, what's the modern man war? What's the modern man's version of this old saying? Well, our wars aren't fought with weapons. It's not like we're in the trenches and the front lines. Well, most of us, that is. So they're really fought with distractions, addictions, comfort, and moral decay. So think about your phone. Think about, lusting. Think about some sort of nonsense that would pull you away from your goals. That's the war. So a warrior might not be the man who is military and combat trained, but it will be the man who's calm, disciplined, overcame all of his distractions, overcame all of his addictions, is disciplined, works hard for his family, is brave and courageous for his family, and willing to put his life on the line, and probably knows how to fight. Now, he might not be a combat veteran, he might not be a samurai or a knight in shining armor, but he's his own knight, he's his own power within. And that's not some cheesy thing I'm saying. Like, seriously, a good man should know how to fight. He should know some sort of martial art. He should know the discipline that comes with the martial art, so he's not running around just punching people. And the discipline is half of it. The discipline and the necessity of the courageous man who is able to stand up when it's necessary and not whenever he feels like it. So the modern man must train his body in the gym, right? And he must train his mind through reflection and his soul through faith, which is important. It's a trifecta. You got to be physically strong, and you got to be mentally strong, because you can't crack. A good man doesn't crack, right? Again, we're not perfect, but he's never going to crack in the scenarios where it's most detrimental to his people he cares about. And he's going to train his soul, right? He's going to increase his faith. He's going to increase his trust in the people he cares about and his trust in God. That's really important as a man, especially a man of faith, because a man of weak faith is not really a good man. Right? You got to be good at the things you're really good at, and you got to be proud of being a good man. Not in a necessarily arrogant way, but you can't be shameful of it, is what I'm saying. So if you don't control your lust, right, you'll really destroy your relationships. So if you're weak to lust, your relationships crumble. If you're weak to anger, you'll destroy your peace, so you'll ruin your garden. And if you don't build strength, if you're just physically weak, then anytime you're tested physically, you'll fall apart. And the men who refuse to discipline themselves will eventually be disciplined by the world, whether they like it or not. So choose to make your own tests and conquer yourself before you get conquered by the world. And believe me, the world will conquer you. There will be times. Have you ever been in front of a girl and were too weak to lift something? That's a perfect opportunity, or not opportunity. That's a perfect example of the time the world has conquered you. Yeah, it's a little cheesy. It's a little embarrassing, but is it not a solid example? Right? You're sitting in front of this girl you like and you struggle to lift something. So at that point, you're probably looking like a gardener in a war. You're a weak little boy who can't do physical labor. So become the strong boy who's able to do physical labor and then can sit still in class, not, tweaking out because he's not lifting up the desks every 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So a gardener would respect peaceful responsibility, right? Or sorry, a garden. The garden itself, screw the gardener. The gardener's got no idea what he's doing. The garden itself, like the flowers you're building or growing in this sense, the leaves you're tending to, the trees you're nurturing, it represents your peaceful responsibility, right? Because a man, he's got to be peaceful and he's got to be strong. And that's not bad. That's a good thing. A man should be strong and peaceful. He should be all good things. That's what a good man is. He's all good things. He's a leader in all. You're not balancing it. You're not tweaking it. You're just doing good in all, which is really hard, but that's why people say be a good man before finding a good woman. And this garden is the perfect representation of the peaceful aspects of his life, the nurturing, the caring aspects of the man, the fatherly part of the man, learning to grow and make children. So it's like your relationships, your home, and your purpose. So the warrior will tend to his garden. It's his peace, it's his responsibility, just like he's training for battle. So if he's training intensely for battle, if he really cares for battle, he also will care for his garden. So he'll wake up early to work, not because he's forced to, but because his peace requires consistency. So he's consistently loving, he's consistently waking up for work, right? Whether it's going to the gym or going to school or you have some morning job, whatever it is, he's got to do it consistently because that's what a good man does. And he'll treat his woman with kindness and never weakness. A gardener isn't strong enough in his heart to always be kind. He might have faults, he might have weakness. A good man doesn't do that. If a good man feels wrong about something, he will talk about it in a collective and healthy way. A weak man will not. A gardener is the weak man, so be a strong man. Always treat your woman with kindness and be consistent. And he'll find joy in the small things. So, a warrior isn't always going to find thirst in the battle. He's going to be disciplined and appreciate the little things. Maybe a sunset, maybe a clean home, maybe a quiet morning, maybe a kiss or a hug, or just looking at the woman, admiring his woman, admiring his family, and being proud of where he is, and not feeling shameful of who he is, and being happy. That's what he earned through discipline, and he can look at that and be happy because he earned it, rightfully so. When people go to the gym is one of the best examples of this because you don't fake muscles. Yeah, you can have testosterone. Yeah, you can take TRT and Tren and whatever, but you're still putting in work. So muscles are really, or like your physical shape is a really good representation of where you are and how hard you work. So a good man is really appreciative of when he gets a little bit of muscle growth or when he has the pump, right? And that's not because he's some crazy lunatic warrior. It's because he's the warrior who's been working hard and going, oh, that's awesome. My biceps a bit more refined or my back's looking good today. So have that type of mentality. Work insanely hard and then go, wow, that woman I really worked for, she is so beautiful today. I love her so much. I'm going to go give her a kiss and then for the next hour tell her how amazing she is, right? You got to be good. Of course, find wisdom in that. There's more to life and you got to enjoy more than that and do more. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, why stop there when you can do more and be more appreciative? But the point is, a weak man, he'll see this peace, this life where you're sitting with the girl and everything, he'll see that as comfort and he'll get used to it and he'll fall because of that comfort. He'll stop being consistent, he'll be inconsistent, and he'll be lazy. But a strong man, his peace will be maintenance, and not in a bad way of maintenance where you're just struggling and thugging it out. It'll be a maintenance where it's his life, he's tending his garden, right? If you have a bonsai tree and the little trees with like the sand and you're like grooming the sand, that maintenance isn't there for you to have like a job that you hate. It's something that you can love and care for. Like a dog, you take the dog out for walks, you clean the dog's poo, you clean the dog itself, you feed the dog, you give the dog love, you give the dog water, you cuddle with the dog, lay with the dog, right? You love the dog. It's not maintenance where you're like, oh, I gotta care for the dog. It's, I have a puppy, I love the puppy, right? So you take that and scale it to relationships, scale it to your work as a man. You're maintaining things in this beautiful, loving way, not in some nonsensical societal expectation where you think it's useless and it's just work. You're supposed to love these things, and in love you'll find sacrifice. So in your maintenance you're going to sacrifice a bit of yourself for it, but that's the best thing a man can do, is sacrifice, right? Whether the sacrifice is people not recognizing you're putting in the work or it's you dying for the sake of your people. That's what it means to be a man. That's why people go to, that's why men go to war, because they desire that sacrifice. They desire that love because they love people so much that they want to die for them. If the world was made of women that were beautiful, the world is made of beautiful women, but if the world was made of all perfect and beautiful and amazing women, then I guarantee you every single man would be enlisting into the army and going, yes, I will serve for these women. But the truth is, there's a lot of crummy women out there, and even more so, there's a lot of crummy men. So for every crappy girl who's not worth fighting over, I reckon there's going to be 10 guys who aren't interested in fighting in the first place. So stop being a gardener and be a warrior in the garden. So let's look at the consequences of being unprepared. So I've seen a man who's really never trained their mind, right? I myself can be one. Only recently I really started to train my mind. And a lot of men would laugh at the idea of discipline. In fact, some of my best friends would scoff at me and think, Nolan, what are you on about? this discipline stuff. Just enjoy life. Just enjoy life. Just live a little, right? Until life tested them, whether they got like a breakup or a job loss or an injury or a failure or like a test they didn't do as good on, and they crumbled. They fell apart. They fell lazy. And then you know what they did? They didn't realize it because they didn't have the gall, or may I say even the balls as a man, to realize that they were wrong and they needed to accept that. Now, they weren't wrong because I was right. They were wrong because life will hit you if you don't hit yourself enough times, which is the truth. It's not some right or wrong, it's the truth. And a man must lead in the truth. So I recognize if I don't have enough wisdom here, if I don't reflect enough, if I don't work hard enough, right, there's going to be consequences. The truth is, if I lust throughout all of university, I'm going to be a really bad man for a partner. There's a woman I'd like to see at the end of my first year of university. If I spend that time lusting, if I sleep with people, if I go to parties, if I'm drinking, right, if I'm looking at pornography and doing all this nonsense, am I going to be a good man? No, I'm going to be the gardener who's weak-minded. I need to be the warrior who conquers all that stuff. And you know what I am? I haven't done any of that, which I'm really proud of. And it's been difficult. A warrior is not without his imperfect days. A warrior is not without struggle. But the warrior never gives up. And then he goes to his garden like I will go to the woman. And he'll live tenderly and beautifully. And he'll be caring and appreciative. And because he's so rigid, and because he's so regimented and loving in his sacrifice, he'll be able to actually care for her a lot more than the gardener. Which is like, how does that make sense? How can the gardener tend less effectively to his flowers than the warrior? But the warrior is doing it with way more love because he understands with the discipline. The warrior is going to get up earlier than the gardener and is actually going to do all the things. The gardener is going to get used to it and then throw the gardener in the opposite situation, throw the gardener into a war. He's going to do way less good or way more ineffective than the warrior. So it's not even worthy of a comparison. Don't be weak, be strong. So pain will test your garden. And without roots, you're just weeds pretending to be flowers. And what that nonsensical quote there means is pain, life struggles, whatever it is, it will test your garden that you've curated as a man, whether as a warrior or a gardener. You'll be put out of your comfort zone. And if you don't have strong roots, if you don't have a beautiful garden that you tend to every day, that you care for every day, then you're a weed. You're useless as a man. You're pretending to be good, and you'll look at a woman and you'll go, I'm good. But a woman will see you for who you truly are, and you will not be good. So be a warrior, and be a good warrior. Be someone who's brave, who's courageous, and tender and loving. As a man, you really have to be all these things. And you can't sit and go, what? That's such a double standard. How can I be everything? Man up. Seriously. It's possible. I know I sound crazy, but it's possible. You can be loving. You can be caring. You can be emotional to your woman. You can be loving and vulnerable at the right times. But that's the important part. You have to realize the right moments. You have to realize the right times. You have to be caring for your partner. That's what's necessary. You need to also be strong. You need to also be courageous. You need to be this warrior. And a warrior works hard enough to the point where he's good at all. And he's living in his garden, he's living beautifully, and he's grateful. Imagine how grateful that warrior is that he's finally out of the trenches and he's in a beautiful garden, versus a gardener who's taken out of his garden and put in the trenches. Think about it. One's going to do okay, one's going to do horrible. One's going to be grateful, one's going to be ruined. So be the grateful one. Do the discipline. You'll hear this a lot of times. Feel the pain of discipline compared to the pain of regret. Because the pain of regret will greatly outweigh in significance to the pain of discipline. So we need a balance between strength and gentleness. Or like I like to say, screw balance, be good in both. Be perfect in strength and in gentleness. Now granted, we can't be perfect, but try your absolute best and live a lifestyle that reflects strength and gentleness. So a man's true masculinity isn't about rage, where you're like the Hulk. It's about controlled power, where you're gentle, you're loving, you're caring. Right? You hold the little flower for how beautiful it is, the little red strawberry for how precious it is, and you don't crush it under your strength. You hold it gently, like a big giant, bodybuilder as he holds a little kitten. That's a manly man. And I know we like to laugh at that image, but a weak man who is physically strong, because at the end of the day, just because you're physically strong doesn't mean you're actually strong. It just means you're physically capable. He might just hurt the kitten because he's not familiar with how careful he should be, or he'll laugh at it and just screw the kitten. right? There's a lot of videos out there of poor men being very, well, non-gentle, I'll say that. They're very disrespectful towards animals. And a lot of people who become like killers or murderers start by taking out their anger on animals. So a good man is actually going to be gentle with animals, so then that will grow to being gentle with people. And I'm not trying to say this as some sort of like, oh, I'm like a psychiatrist, or I'm a social worker, I know how human mentality works. I'm just saying, like, bro to bro science. Be gentle towards animals so you can be more gentle towards people. Or just be gentle to everything. Be gentle to the trees, be gentle to the bugs, be gentle to the flowers, be gentle to the kittens and the puppies, be gentle to your neighbors, be gentle to your mother, be gentle to your father, your sister, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever it is. Be gentle with everybody, because those are the people you care about. So why would you be this ravenous monster full of rage with them, right? A strong man knows he could destroy them. A strong man knows he could kick their butts at any day, but instead of doing that, he's going to build, because with strength comes responsibility. With power comes responsibility, right? Old man from the Spider-Man series didn't say that for no reason. That was a life lesson to teach a growing generation. With great power comes great responsibility. So be the strong man, be the buff guy with the little kitten in his hand, but care for the kitten, love the little guy, right? You got to be gentle. If you're not gentle, then, how do you gauge your power? And even then, you shouldn't look at it as such, gauging your power, but just put that to the side and just focus on being loving, focus on being gentle, because that's the point of a man. The man is supposed to be loving and gentle and able to stand up and be firm and stiff-spined when necessary, right? Like in a combative scenario, if a man comes out and tries to hurt you, obviously your first instinct should be to de-engage the situation and calm everybody down. But if that's not necessary, if you can't de-escalate the situation, then you destroy the guy. You annihilate him off the face of the earth. And there you go. You did it. You protected the people you care for, and you did all you could to de-escalate the situation. But a gardener couldn't do that. If push comes to shove, a gardener would die in that situation. So be the man who chooses peace, but if necessary, he can fight. Because it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. It's as simple as that. Your meekness is power under control, right? So don't consider yourself weak. Don't consider yourself pathetic to want to be gentle to people, because you'll know deep down you're strong and you're capable, but you're finding more fulfillment in the compassion and caring you give to people despite your strength, rather than the compassion you'll find in your strength. So what I mean by that is, if you couldn't get through my word salad, there's more to life than just being strong, and that is caring when you are strong. And you'll find way more fulfillment in being the man who's strong and compassionate than being the man who's just strong. So don't fear becoming the warrior. Chase it, become the warrior. And fear being unprepared when the war comes. Fear that moment when you're not capable. You should replay these thoughts in your mind where you're scared that you're going to be inadequate. The man's going to come and he's going to hurt your family, and you failed. You weren't strong enough. But don't let it crumble you. You got to build yourself. Protect the peace. Why do you want to be strong? Because you love these people and you want to protect them. Peace only exists where strength is guarding it, right? In heaven, you have a giant angel who protects it, right? Okay, maybe sorry, the Garden of Eden. Sorry, I didn't want to be like completely off there. Probably both. Sorry, I'm not that refreshed on the Bible. I'm only sort of reading it right now, so don't quote me on anything. But in the Garden of Eden, there's a giant angel with a sword, a flaming sword, who will strike anything down who tries to get into the Garden of Eden. And if you don't know, the Garden of Eden is this beautiful heavenly garden. That's it. And you know who's protecting the garden? A warrior. And you know what the warrior is? It's an angel. So you can be the angel warrior. You can be the strong man who will annihilate anything who tries to hurt the people he cares about, or destroy the garden. But you're living in the garden. You're keeping this beautiful garden safe. And you're building the garden. So be the man who builds his garden. Be the man who protects his garden. Be the man who's compassionate and gentle to the garden. And if push comes to shove, you're also the man who can protect his garden. And that's what's necessary, because there's too many men who can't protect their garden, and there's too many men who actually end up destroying their own garden. So you need to be both. You need to be the man who's able to protect his garden and the man who can destroy other things. And even Christ was a warrior. When Okay, let me give a little Bible story. So even Jesus Christ was a warrior. Upon returning to the temple in Jerusalem, he found a bunch of tables of people selling gold and all sorts of things, selling like animal fats or jewelry and clothing. And the difficult thing was not what they were selling; it was the fact that they turned this place of worship into a market, which it was a problem because you don't sell things at a church; you worship at a church. And what Jesus did was he flipped all the tables and he started whipping around. And like he took a whip and started whipping to get people's attention, and he literally like went and like flipped tables. But he didn't do this because he was angry. He didn't do this because he's like, oh, I'm a strong carpenter, I'm gonna flip all these tables. No, no, no. He was a good man, and a good man doesn't hide his power. A good man is a man who others will recognize his power. Just like in a strong man, you'll see he's physically strong, and a smart man, you'll see he's incredibly intelligent in the way he speaks and the way he carries himself. A confident man, you can tell he's confident. A wise man, you can tell he's wise. A loving man, you can tell he's loving. And he'll dedicate it to something greater. So he flipped the tables not because he hated the people who were vending. He flipped the tables because he needed to tell people and give a lesson that you don't turn a sacred place of worship into a market. The same way you don't turn your garden into a fiery pile of ash. So don't let, worms and snakes fill your garden. Though of course I'm sure some worms will help, but I mean like the bad worms. You know what I'm saying? Don't let your garden be filled with snakes and spiders and all these horrible things. Keep your garden clean. Eradicate pestilence in your garden, right? And, I know I'm going on and on about this tangent about this garden, but it doesn't have to be about the garden. It can be about your real life thing. Keep the lust out of your relationship with your loving woman. Keep the laziness out of your dedication towards your discipline and your tasks, right? Don't skip the gym. Go for it. Keep your health healthy, right? Keep your mind healthy. Keep your soul healthy. Keep your faith well. Work hard. Remind the people that you love them. Remind yourself that you love these people so you know who you're working for. So this garden, you need to rid of snakes. This loving woman, you need to rid your relationship with her with lust. So they're essentially the same thing, and I hope you're willing to see from my crazy ramblings, and I apologize for that. I understand I'm going a lot of back and forth today, and it's a bit of a word salad. It's a lot of a word salad, but I actually have class and I'm late for class, so I'm like a little nervous right now, and I'm sure you can even tell that from me. But I'm compassionate nonetheless, and I'm loving nonetheless. So I'm loving being here. I'm loving talking about these things, and I'm so grateful for all this. So thank you very much. But anyways, so yeah, point is, be a warrior in a garden. Be a man who can stand up and fight somebody, but chooses to keep peace for as long as possible. The important thing is, though, when peace is not an option, he actually is able to fight, opposed to the man who depends on the peace, but actually cannot fight. Be the man who's loving. Be the man who's able to fight. Be the man who's able to take the sacrifice. Be the man who's patient. Be a good man who leads in truth. Be a good man. My name is Nolan T. Painter. Thank you for watching, even though this video might have been a bit more of a word salad. And I'll see you tomorrow.